The Big 12 and UConn have stopped conversations about expanding with one another. Why do I care? It's college football season. This is Locked On Big 12.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Big 12. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. Thank you for making this show your first listen every single day. Today, the Big 12 and UConn have stalled all conversations. Also, this weekend's going to be massive. Let's talk college football as well as the Iowa State-Iowa game. We'll give you an in-depth preview of that one. If you hit subscribe, I get to keep my job, and I would like that. Off the riff here, the Big 12 and UConn are no longer talking. Okay? This feels like the time that I was in college and my friends were all like, hey, man, you know, that Pi-Fi is way too good for you. There's no way you'll ever land her. And we went on one date because it was like a pity thing. She's like, yeah, sure, I'll go on a date with you. And then, you know, after that, it's like we have stopped all discussions. All conversations have been cut off for the time being. The Big 12 is the Pi-Fi. I am UConn in that situation where UConn, it's like, yeah, we want to go to the Big 12. And then the Pi-Fi, the Big 12 conference, sits down with the rest of its friends, all the presidents of the league. And they're like, no, not him at all. And then there I am, sad and alone, which is the story of all of our lives. Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports reports that the Big 12 and UConn are no longer having those talks. And Auriemma is quoted as saying this coming from On3. Following detailed discussions with my conference colleagues, alongside UConn leadership, we have jointly decided to pause our conversations at this time. We will instead focus our attention and resources to ushering in this new era of college athletics, which is what the Pi-Fi said to me. She said, following detailed discussions with all of my friends, alongside the guy, we have jointly decided to pause conversations at this time. That's what this is. That's what this is the Big 12, like one person involved with the Big 12, Brett Yormark, said, hey, wait a second, maybe we should go on a date with this guy. And UConn said, I would love to go on a date. And then after a while, we all sat down at the table and decided that's a really not good idea because maybe number one, above all else, what the hell are you doing? It is the middle of August when these rumors sparked up and college football is happening. Right now, collegiate presidents, by and large in the Big 12, which is a football-driven conference, collegiate athletic directors, definitely by and large, are worried about one thing, and that thing is called football. It drives all revenue in the fall, and so when Brett Yormark gets on the phone and says, hey guys, what do we think about expanding with UConn? Everyone says, Brett, why the hell did you not do this 3 months ago? Like, what? They won a national championship. If you asked us the week after that, we're probably like, yeah, you know, like the week after I got done winning an intramural championship in kickball, maybe then the Pi-Fi would want me. But instead, I let an entire summer go by, and I came back senior year and like was less hip and cool. That's where UConn is. Like, you don't want to spotlight my intramural flag football capabilities because then she's not going to want me. You don't want to spotlight UConn's football capabilities because we're definitely not going to want them at that point. Yormark picked the worst possible time to call all the presidents and say, we don't need to vote yet. I'm just going to gauge the room. And then what sounds like a large majority of the presidents said, no, absolutely not. Pete Thamel talked about how the Big 12 presidents met about UConn. No vote was taken. This again from On3. The call was informational in nature and discussion focused, led by the Big 12's outside consultant, which walked through UConn's media and market value. This is now strike two for UConn. They have not made it in the Big 12 twice. How many strikes do you get in expansion? I don't know. But timing, bad. College football is on the mind. And maybe number two, when it comes to college football, which should always be on the mind, UConn stinks. They don't make any money. They spend more money on basketball than they do football. And I've told you, I've made the case, I've made it prominent that I don't think UConn would be a bad addition, especially if we don't have to worry about the football side. However, that's a huge side. In a world where there have been reports, this from C.W. Lambert, and I'll touch on this more next week. Can I give you a small caveat here? I don't care anymore. You all, I've seen the comments. I don't read them a ton. My mom reads the comments more than me. And sometimes you people are mean. I don't read them. I read the nice ones. And sometimes you all talk about how, like, oh, it's college football season. Stop talking about expansion. Well, when the commissioner of your conference is pitching expansion to your presidents, I've got to talk about it. And here's this from C.W. Lambert. By the way, the Big 12 has a backroom deal with Miami and Louisville. If the ACC collapses, the Hurricanes and Cardinals are in. It's a handshake deal. So if the Canes get a better offer, not expected, they take it. The Big 12 understands and is fine with that. Can I be very honest with you? I don't care. UConn to the Big 12. It's September 6th, guys. Miami, Louisville to the Big 12. It's September 6th. This was a fun conversation June 8th. What else are we going to talk about? Today, I'm geared up, gassed up for Oklahoma State to play Arkansas. And I think that's exactly where conference presidents and athletic directors are. Like, Brett, what? Why would you ever bring this to us right now? We don't care. With all due respect to you as the commissioner of the conference, we really, really don't care right now. I hope that you feel the same way. I hope that you're not disgruntled that UConn is not tomorrow, on the docket tomorrow, to come to the Big 12. Your Mark also said this in August of 2023 per the Marshawn and Oran Sports Media podcast. Unfortunately, this is about Gonzaga. Things don't work out only because the dream scenario unfolded for us, so the conversations are no longer. He has turned down UConn. He's turned down Gonzaga. Those conversations have stalled multiple times now. At what point do we all just look around the room and go, hey, it's okay. It's okay, big guy. We're not mad. Nobody's upset at you. Let's just move on. There are plenty of Pi-Phis in the world. The Thetas aren't bad. They're kind of scaled back a bit. The Kappas aren't bad. They're a little wild. You can tame one of them. It's okay. Coming up, much more important than this, the Big 12 is about to have a huge weekend in college football. This is Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hey, today's show is brought to you at home by LinkedIn Talent Solutions. LinkedIn is where I go. I have an intern. Anytime you see a good tweet from Locked On Big 12 on Twitter, LOB12, it's definitely from the intern and not from me. Thanks to LinkedIn Talent Solutions. Zach was my guy. He said, hey, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm going to apply for this job. And I said, sweet, you've got it. Not just a job board. 70% of LinkedIn users don't use other leading job sites. If you're looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the right place. LinkedIn has 86% of small businesses getting a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring as well. You can do it today, constantly finding ways to make the process easier. LinkedIn is the place to very quickly find the right hire. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. LinkedIn.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. LinkedIn.com/lockedoncollege. Visit them today. We are gearing up for what will be one of the biggest weekends in Big 12 football. And it starts today with BYU beating SMU. Not only do I think BYU will cover in this game, I think that they will beat SMU in this game. The reason why, I am going to go back to the way that SMU struggled with Nevada. Final score 29-24. The Mustangs, who were down 17-10 at halftime, losing to the Wolfpack, who are not good at football. And you say, well, Drake, they have Preston Stone. Guess what? Preston Stone, in the one game they played against a competent football team, has not impressed me. In the other game they played against Houston Christian, didn't really need to impress me. I didn't see enough to have an opinion. In the only game where I've got an opinion, he stunk. Not good. Not good against Nevada. 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 17 for 30, 254 yards. They only put up 29 points against the Nevada Wolfpack. Am I reading too much into one game? Maybe. But the only sample size I've been given by Nevada against a team that's competent, because Houston Christian is not, sorry. The only sample size I've been given by Nevada against a team that's competent, they got their you-know-what rocked. BYU, on the other hand, playing the number 11 team in the country in the FCS, one-handedly last week. Jake Retzloff looked like not just a competent quarterback, but an elite passer in that game. And to me, This is a BYU team that comes into this game with far more momentum, and that will have, in a game that tickets are as low as $20 for, more fans in the stands than SMU. Do you understand? The LDS faith is going to pack out that place. There are an absurd amount of missionaries in the Dallas area who will be at this game, or those who serve their mission in the Dallas area. Oklahoma State, Arkansas. Guess what? Despite how good Arkansas was last week offensively, guess who's better statistically than anyone for Arkansas? Deshaun Stribling. Yeah, that's the case for wide receiver. Alan Bowman. Yeah, that's the case, quarterback. Ollie Gordon. Didn't have a crazy game last week. Didn't have an insane game last week. Yep. Still better statistically than anybody for Arkansas, despite them scoring 70 points. Bowman, Gordon, Stribling. Yeah. A three-headed monster playing an Arkansas team that sure has Bobby Petrino, but they are outmatched. They're one of the worst teams in the SEC. Oklahoma State wins this game. Tulane, Kansas State. I have told you before. This line keeps dropping. Total at 47.5. Kansas State might put up 40 themselves. Tulane, on a first-year head coach, is not the Tulane. They have not proven to anyone they're the Tulane of last season, or that they're the Tulane that beat USC in a New Year's Six Bowl. Kansas State is the same Kansas State that could very well win a New Year's Six Bowl this year. I am completely okay in college football with guilty until proven innocent. Tulane is guilty of being an unproven football team until they've proven themselves with a first-year head coach. And they will not do that against a proven fifth, sixth-year head coach in Chris Kleiman with Kansas State. Pittsburgh, Cincinnati is different. I know Cincinnati did really well last week. Brendan Sorsby was a dog. I'm holding out hope. I'm just going to hope. Utah, Baylor. I went to Baylor. Have a degree from there in public relations and journalism. I think Utah wins this game by 14. Do they cover 14.5? No. They win this game. Final score of 35-21. Yeah. And both parties win. In a 35-21, Utah looks away and you'd be happy. Baylor looks, walk away and go, yeah, okay. We lost by 14 points. We covered. I'm okay with that. Works for both teams. It's not a Big 12 game, so happy out of conference. Iowa State, Iowa, I'll break down more in depth in the final segment of the show. Over under 35.5 is hilarious. West Virginia, UAlbany. UAlbany's good. Greg Gattuso, their head coach, I've had on the show before. Good guy. Real good. He loves Chip and Joanna. Give me West Virginia. UCF, Sam Houston. Guys, children with cancer made UCF's helmets. Children who have cancer made UCF's helmets. And they're only favored by 21 against Sam Houston, who was one of the worst teams in the entire FBS last year. Give me the team whose helmets were made by children who have cancer to cover. UCF minus 21. Lock of the century, many are saying. Kansas. I forgot Luke Altmaier existed. The only time I've seen Luke Altmaier play, he was bad. He was really, really bad. That was back in his Ole Miss days. He just stunk. So I don't know. Is that enough for you? Will you do that there? Can you be like, yeah, sure. I get it. I trust you, Drake. You watched him play live one time in the Sugar Bowl, and he was not good. I'll bet on Kansas. Please do. Jeff Grimes, Jalen Daniels, they get it done pretty easily. Colorado, Nebraska. 56 is the total. Colorado's off. If it goes under, Colorado wins. If it goes over, Colorado wins. That's what I'm trying to say. If it goes under, Nebraska wins because Colorado's offense is better than somebody told me recently. Like, oh yeah, Dylan Raiola. Who? What? No. Nebraska's probably the more complete football team. Colorado has higher highs. Wouldn't be shocked if they won. I probably won't bet it though. Oklahoma was favored by 30. Now they're only favored by 28 against Houston. They're probably going to cover that. Sorry, Houston. TCU beats Long Island by as many points as humanly possible. Arizona does the same to Northern Arizona. Texas Tech, Washington State, take the over on 66. It keeps climbing. Gosh dang it. All I can give you, Texas Tech, is this game will be a shootout. And in a shootout, either team can win. Who's got the ball last? Who scores that pivotal touchdown? Could be you. Possibly. I think Texas Tech, probably loses. But don't put too much stock into week one. You know what? I'm the host of Locked On Big 12. What am I going to lose for it? Texas Tech wins. Big 12 goes 16-0 this week. Mississippi State, Arizona State. This one I legitimately believe. Arizona State, who was favored by 7, now favored by 5.5. This one's dropping. You can win money. It is my lock of the week in the Big 12. I'm hanging out with a bunch of Arizona State guys now who play for the Party Animals. Like I'm in Banana Ball, hanging out with the Arizona State guys. I'm like, yeah, no, we're going to win this by a large margin. I do believe that is the case. I think Arizona State minus 5.5. My lock of the week against Mississippi State. Like, I love that BYU upsets SMU. Definitely plus 12. They look so much better last week, and I don't believe in Rhett Lashley's squad this year. Oklahoma State definitely beats Arkansas. Kansas State goes on the road to Tulane and has 0 issues. Iowa State, tough game. Kansas wins by a yes. Colorado, tough game. Houston, tough game. Texas Tech, tough game. Arizona State, you win by a lot. This is just a fun week. If we win 13 games, I'll be happy. Coming up, let's break down Iowa State on Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. I love Game Time because not only is it game time, it's concert time. Like, I wanted to go see Tyler Childers. Cool, I can go do it because of Game Time. I want to go see Sierra Farrell. Yeah. Or 49 Winchester, or Flatland Cavalry, or Turnpike Troubadours. If you're a Big 12 fan, you should probably know who those people are. And Game Time will send you to their concert. And it's a new, easy way that gives you tickets. That's right. Seat views, lowest price guaranteed, Game Time ticket coverage. You can go to Game Time ticket guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. You can create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. With Game Time, code LOCKEDONCollege gets you $20 off your first purchase with Locked On College being that code. Go to Game Time. Do it today.
Big rivalry this weekend. Iowa State in Iowa City. That's Drake Toll, Locked On Big 12. Drake, the obvious thing on the line is that this is a rivalry game. But are there broader implications here? I talked earlier today.
Keen inference. Nicely done, Spencer. Hot start.
I was thinking about the Tennessee game earlier on today's show and saying, if Tennessee doesn't beat NC State, they're not going to make the playoff. Is something like that on the line here in Iowa State?
No. What? No. Playoff implications are the least of the worries of these two teams right now. And I think that's not a bad thing, at least. Iowa State is not a playoff team, and I don't think Iowa is a playoff team either. That's not a bad thing necessarily, and I don't think that the precedent of this game is going to set whether or not these two believe they're playoff contenders. If you're Iowa State and you lose, we've got to kind of almost re-envision the playoff and where these teams sit, because you can still win the Big 12. You can still finish runner-up in the Big 12 and win 11 games and be a playoff contender. Right now, the focus for Iowa State is win the conference. The focus for anybody, Texas Tech, who just snuck past ACU, or even a team that lost this week like West Virginia, is, hey, if we win the Big 12, that all goes away and we still go to the playoff. Is that a conversation right now? No. Are there deeper implications? Yes, but the regular season itself is different than it was even last year, and Iowa State doesn't have to beat Iowa to overall be successful.
I think for Iowa in this game, it'll be an actual test of their offense. They were Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde in week one against a team who, if I said who it was, 99.99999% of my audience could not identify what city it's actually a part of. And guess what? I can't either. So 6-0 at the half. You think, it's
Fargo maybe, right? That was Iowa State. Iowa State, North Dakota, that's Fargo, right? Illinois State's in Evansville? Oh, not good. Not good. You're right. Not good.
Yeah. Not easy. Not an easy thing to do. Evansville could be right. Could very well be right. It might be wrong. I really don't know. The point is that when Iowa had only 6 points at the half, you thought, oh boy, here we go. Tim Lester didn't make a difference. It's the same old Iowa team. And then in the second half, they put up 34. And you're like, well, hey, I kind of recognize that version of Cade McNamara from his time at Michigan, leading them to Big Ten championships and college football playoff appearances. That's interesting. What do you make of the Hawkeyes' week 1 performance where they stunk in the first half and they were objectively great in the second half, the way you would hope they look against an opponent of that caliber?
Yeah, honestly, Spencer, being the host of Locked On Big 12, I wouldn't have watched this game, but FanDuel exists, and I like the Iowa team over this week. It was like 33, because I thought, hey, change offensive coordinator. The emphasis is there. You're going to have to score points, and they did score points in the second half. Cade McNamara looked like a quarterback. I don't need him to be like better than competent. He was a quarterback, and to have a running back like Caleb Johnson to score 2 touchdowns, I thought, hey, what if Iowa actually is okay on offense now? And if that's the case, we know the defense is going to be good. The problem to me is for Iowa this week, the Iowa State offense is really, really solid with Rocco Beck, Busama, and we saw what Jalen Noel was able to do last week in the wide receiver game. They have a top 3 wide receiver room in the Big 12, which feels rare for Iowa State. We don't usually talk about their wide receiver game. They got probably a top 5, 6 tight end in the conference too, and in the Big 12 at least. When it comes to facing Iowa, defense on defense, and after what Iowa State gave you holding North Dakota to 3 last week, we might see a good old-fashioned 13-7 ball game. And I still think Iowa State has the better offense than Iowa, and in a 13-7 game, you have a better chance of scoring 13 than the Hawkeyes do.
I get the sense that Vegas wants to like Iowa State more in this game, but the Hawkeyes are at home and they are a tough team to beat in front of their home crowd because, well, it's a very rowdy and rambunctious environment. So when I look at this matchup, Drake, I think the most interesting component is how does that Iowa State offense fare against the Iowa defense? Certainly there are other individual matchups you could look at or, big unit matchups to compare, but if Iowa State's offense is able to get going, I still don't know that I trust Iowa. In spite of the second half last week against the Middle Tennessee Technical Institute or whoever they were playing, I don't know if I'm fully in the camp of I trust Iowa's offense. This is real now. If Iowa State's offense is able to get going, and that's not an easy thing to do. We know Iowa's going to play great defense. Kirk Ferentz is back. I'm sure the players will be plenty inspired along those lines. But if the Iowa State offense finds a rhythm, finds momentum, puts up 3-4 touchdowns in this game, I don't trust Iowa to be able to keep that pace.
Yeah, 24 could very well be the magic number in this game, and that's not rare for those matchups recently between Iowa State, or a matchup between Iowa and anybody. I'm looking right now at the scouting report from Pick 6 previews, and for Iowa State, they have the number 1 defensive backfield in the conference, and so Cade McNamara is going to face a much better DB unit than he did last week against Illinois A&M Tech. And part of that starts with Jeremiah Cooper. You look over at Bo Freiler, who are both first-team all Big 12 caliber DBs, and then Iowa State's also given out of the Big 12 the number 2 defensive line unit in the conference, number 8 in linebacking core, but you have 2 top units in the DBs and the D line, and for Iowa, that's your nightmare fuel, is a good or competent defense. Now, the offense for Iowa State, per Pick 6 previews, 7th in QB play with Rocco Beck, 12th the running back Busama, 7th wide receiver and tight end. I have them higher rated in my own book as a couple of guys. They have 2 different all Big 12, honorable mention at least caliber wide receivers. That bodes well for what Iowa State brings you offensively. The question is then, against an Iowa defense that's so good, can you put up that 24 points? Can you put up 21 points? You already know your defense for Iowa State's solid, and you know that Iowa's offense still has question marks. One 40-point game doesn't erase what's been a tough offensive culture over the last couple of years under Kirk Ferentz. Then it becomes, hey, can our offense do that? Can we get 21 points after last week only getting 21 against North Dakota at home?
First to 20 points probably wins the game.
Yeah, most likely.
That's been the trend in this matchup. Last year's game had a point total under 30, and Iowa's won 7 of the last 8. So let's wrap with our predictions here, Drake, to end today's show. I think this is going to be a really, really entertaining football game. One of the reasons I bring it up on today's show is it's a great matchup. I think it could just be a slugfest. Safety after
fundamental football, 0 penalties as it was intended.
Yeah, I mean, it could very well play out that way. Regardless, it's a rivalry. We don't get a lot of those early in the season in college football. We'll have a couple of next week out west, but I'm going Iowa in this game. This matchup has been favoring the Hawkeyes at home. I know they're a slight favorite because Iowa State has got a little bit more offensive firepower. I trust the Iowa defense to play well in front of that home crowd. I think the Iowa offense can do barely enough. Heck, the defense might even mess around and score. So I'll go Iowa 17, Iowa State 13.
Yeah, I think you probably hit the nail on the head with the under here. I don't believe this game goes over. I
don't know if I love that prediction now.
Yeah, it's not going to be a fun one to watch. 28% chance for Iowa State to win per ESPN, and look,
they've got a better chance of winning than 28%. Also, the reason I don't love the prediction that I just gave, and I'm thinking about going back on it, is I don't know if that many points are going to get scored.
Yeah, well, and in a game like this, to me, truly one touchdown is the difference. You could score 1 touchdown and win the game. 3 field goals, 1 touchdown, and congrats. You're walking out of there with a win. And I'm sure this rivalry has a trophy that I wish I knew the name of. My favorite part of this in Kinnick Stadium, tickets, lowest price, $140. So people are going to be there. The Iowa crowd is going to be there. The atmosphere is going to be good because both of these teams feel as though they'll be conference contenders at the end of the year. And both of them should be based on their returning guys. If I got to go objective here, I'm the host of Locked On Big 12. I lose nothing by picking Iowa State. I still think Iowa has the slight edge in this one. And that's because the defense, the Hawkeyes, until they bend or break, I'm going to struggle to pick against them at home. I think Iowa probably takes this one in that 17-13, 17-14 range. And Iowa State's got a chance at the end, but the Iowa defense is just that good. I'm going to need Rocco Beck to grow up real fast, real quick, and become an elite quarterback. And I need Abu Sama to do more than 36 yards, which is what he did against North Dakota in a game where they scored 21.
If Iowa State goes into Hawkeye Stadium and wins this football game and looks really good doing it, let me tell you, Big 12 title contender Josh Pate's dreams could come true. That is Drake Toll.
Super quick?
Yes, you can.
Sorry.
No. It's okay. We have time.
If they win that game, they follow that up with Arkansas State, Houston, Baylor at home. Iowa State starts 5-0
and ranked in the top 25.
Yeah, top 20 team, top 25 team there, and legitimate chance to make noise in the Big 12.
I think more on the line for Iowa State than Iowa in this particular game relative to my season expectations for him. Now, that has been Drake Toll, Locked On Big 12. Appreciate it as always.
Thanks.